Hola, bom dia, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal live stream, YouTube channel and podcast. It's Monday. It's Meetup Monday, where we welcome the friends and community of the Expats Portugal. Well, it's a complete system for supporting expats in Portugal, as the name suggests. And one of them, who we are welcoming into our warm bosom this morning, is Peggy. Jerry's here from Expats Portugal as well, and we are talking specifically, because this is all about supporting people who are expats and explorers, diggers and dreamers here in Portugal. Either you're here already or you want to come here. Peggy's made that journey from the United States, so if you have questions from that angle, that point of view, and you want to quiz her about that, you can do so here on the live stream this morning, and you can watch it again on YouTube if there are things you missed or things you want to enjoy for a second time, and also on the podcast. So a quick look at the news and the weather before we go to Peggy and to Jerry, of course, who's here from Expats Portugal. And the big news, actually, no, let's do the weather first. I think the weather is looking rather marvelous, and we've reached that threshold, haven't we, where expats are now complaining about the weather. We're never happy as human beings, are we? But those temperatures were extreme over the weekend, getting close to 40 in some parts of the country. But I'm looking forward for you now into the week, and can see that it's going to cool down a bit. So the sun's staying, it's going to stay sunny, not a hint of rain anywhere, but the temperatures are dropping to what I suppose are arguably are slightly more comfortable levels, mid-20s and up, but not into the 30s, unless of course you're in Beja today, where it will go to 41 and 40. But the rest of the country looks a lot cooler, and even Castelo Branco is not rising above 40 today. But in the principal parts of the country, Lisbon, we are looking at a high of 34 today, 21 currently. In Porto, high of 29, 22 currently. And in Coimbra, it will get to 35, currently 23. But sunny days all the way right through until the weekend. Not a cloud in the sky until next Sunday in Lisbon. And everywhere else, lots of, I mean, the summer's really arrived. And a cloudy day perhaps in Aveiro on Wednesday, but really some beautiful weather and not quite as hot, which may come as a relief to some folk. Okay, the big news at the moment, of course, is the collapse of the Treaty of Windsor, which does sound really dramatic, doesn't it? Treaty of Windsor was created in the 14th century between England and Portugal to come to the aid of each other in times of trouble. And somebody said to me, we did our wine club on Saturday night, and someone said, Treaty of Windsor, it's in tatters. And that was because they'd had a few glasses of red wine, of course, but you get the sentiment that let's have a look what the PM is saying here in Portugal. Antonio Costa is saying that I think he feels it's rather unfair. PM Costa compares Algarve virus cases with those in UK, quizzing which is safest. Costa has taken to Twitter in English to show how few virus cases the Algarve has compared with Great Britain at a time when our oldest ally appears to have kneecapped our chances of recovering the so far abysmal summer season. This according to Natasha Don in the Portugal Resident. As shockwaves continue to reverberate over the British government's decision to label Portugal unsafe for quarantine-free travel, the Prime Minister presented a very simple bar chart showing cases per 100,000 inhabitants in UK compared to those in the country's premier tourist destination, the Algarve. It is hard to understand. I won't dwell on that, but you get the gist of that. And I'll leave the PM's picture there whilst I read an email that was sent in to us. Do keep these coming. It's always great to hear from you. Excuse me. Hi, Carl. Boa tarde. Como está? A big watcher of Good Morning Portugal. Great program. Emailed you before and hope you mentioned this mail. Of course I will. This is from Mike. Been visiting Guia in the Algarve, I hope I pronounced that right, for over 25 years. Now retired, so do a couple of months each year. Wonderful place, lovely people, so civilized. But, in capital letters, can somebody explain to me why I cannot go in August to one of the safest places in Europe when Spain has just put 270,000 people into quarantine and I can go there? I miss Portugal and I'm happy to support travel, but I am not allowed. Frustrating and not logical, in capital letters as well. My best wishes to the people and hope the economy can survive. Cumprimentos, Mike. Yeah, totally understand that sentiment, as I'm sure others do. Let's have a look at a few comments then from you in the community there. And thank you for letting me know that the sound wasn't working. And now that I'm sounding like a rock star from Frank, who was there with us on Saturday at the wine club. That was a rowdy affair, wasn't it? but very enjoyable nonetheless. Generally scoring nearly 4 out of 5 for the wine we chose, the Peggy. Howdy, folks. Good morning from Wayne. I think it was also there. Miss Healy's here, the head mistress of the wine club. Hola, bon dia, todos. From Julie Marsh in Fundao, sober this time. Glad to hear it. Good morning from a very hot Fundao. What a bunch. Having to say you're sober. Yesterday down on the patio, 44.5 degrees. Slab splitting weather. Grey and gloomy in Foz at the moment. That's normal there though, isn't it, John? I think in the morning you get a bit of that sea fog. That'll clear up nicely, I'm sure, today. And from Lena, good morning to you. Bon dia a todos. A scorcher here in the Algarve. Wonder what you think, Lena, of this crazy air bridge situation between the UK and Portugal. We could dwell on that, but we won't. One other thing that I found this morning was a news story. I always look for Portugal news. Lisbon residents cleaning up after storm topples trees. Thinking, crikey, I didn't realise, I heard nothing about that. Then I found out it's Lisbon, North Dakota. So you have to be really careful. I nearly launched into a storm story, but that's Lisbon, North Dakota, which is a fabulous moment, of course, to welcome onto the screen Peggy originally from the United States. Hello and good morning to you, Peggy. How are you?
Bom dia, tudo bem?
Sim, obrigado. E consigo?
Sí. Muy bien.
Okay, muy bien. Okay, fantastic. And Jerry's here as well from Expats Portugal.
Bom dia.
Bom dia.
Bom dia, Jerry.
Bom dia. Bom dia.
It's Meetup Monday, where we welcome everyone from the Expats Portugal community. How things are looking there, Jerry?
Yeah, pretty good. We hit, I think, 38 degrees yesterday. So it was very pleasant. And I think we tried the pool was around about 35 degrees, which was amazing.
How lovely for you.
Pardon?
Say that again, Peggy.
It's almost worth taking a bar of soaps. You can 2 at once, you know.
Well, yes, I installed a swim-up bar, you know, which basically involves a couple of bottles of beer lying by the side of the pool, and that's the secret as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, but I think I might have to join this wine club. It sounds like a real raucous affair.
It was great fun on Saturday. I was just to say that the only bar is not a bar of soap at Jerry's place. It's a bar by the pool.
Yes.
But yeah, you must, Jerry. Every fortnight we try a different Portuguese wine. Mm-hmm. And Miss Healy, as we now call her, the head mistress of the wine club, cracked the whip on Saturday night. She'd warmed up, it has to be said as well. She'd been training by tasting a few herself earlier on in the day, which was slightly evident, but it gave a really nice atmosphere and flavour to the proceedings. But Peggy, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You're going to tell us about your journey from the United States to Portugal. As ever, Expats Portugal have some excellent resources, which I'm going to share on the screen now. This is the sort of general gist of Americans moving to Portugal. And then we'll get your particular view on it. This is a simple step-by-step process, and we'll find out if it just goes as easily as this, as swingingly as this. Step 1, complete your application online. This is from the excellent resource that is Americans applying for a resident visa over there on expatsportugal.com. Step 2, complete your application online. This is yours, isn't it? We have got your article as well. Yeah, this is the general gist, but I will go to your article too about driving. Step 3, preparing your documents for submission to the Portuguese Embassy in Washington. Step 4, the visa interview, which sounds possibly challenging. Step 5, receive your visa. And that's it. Peggy, was it as simple as that for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You get your fingerprints, you get your FBI checked to find out you're not a criminal. You have to show your birth certificate. And you send all of these documents to the embassy. And then I went to the embassy for my interview, which took literally about 3 minutes. Of course, you have to show that you have money, because the main reason they are so welcoming to expats is our money. but that's okay. We don't mind sharing it. And so you have to, we are living here after all. We have to be able to support ourselves. The government doesn't want to support us. So we are supporting ourselves, and they're happy to have all the expats do that. So it was extremely simple. I thought when I started it, it would be very intimidating, but it turned out not to be. So I encourage everyone who is thinking of doing it to get the ball rolling, because it's just wonderful here. And you don't, that's all I can say.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you like it here? That's perfectly answered the question. Where did you come from in America, and where are you now in Portugal?
I'm in the Algarve. I am near, just north of Amacea de Peara and south of Peara. So I'm in between the two. And it's lovely. We can see the ocean. We're about 1 kilometer from the ocean. And we overlook the bird sanctuary. So there's no high rises or houses there to obscure our view. We have a lovely walking area. And I encourage everybody. I see a lot of people who want to come to Portugal, and they say, "Oh, we think we'll go here, where we hear a lot about." And I always encourage them to look around, because we came 4 or 5 times and went all over Portugal before we found the spot that we were most comfortable in. And I just encourage people to do that, to look around before you decide on the very first place you go. Now, it might be that very first place you go is the place you want to be, but until you visit the other places, you don't know that.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. That would be my advice as well. If you can, tour, because you're not going to be disappointed with your touring and looking around Portugal. That's a lovely little journey in itself. Yeah, I think Jerry had a question for you, Peggy.
Yes, Peggy, I wanted to ask, just going back to the visa requirements. The visa you apply for is a 90-day visa. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then separately to that, then once you arrive in Portugal as a non-EU citizen, you then have to apply for permanent residency in Portugal. So that's a separate process, right?
Correct. And as soon as you arrive in Portugal, you should go immediately to the SEF site, the immigration site, and book an appointment, because the appointment sometimes can be 3 months out. And you take all those papers that you just showed to the embassy with you to the SEF site, including some money, and they look at all your paperwork. They look and see what the embassy has on you. And one thing I have to say is that people have different experiences with the SEF. And some of your paperwork, you really need to start the process in the States and have this material put in from the embassy instead of coming here and then trying to start it here.
Yes.
Because the embassy in Portugal will translate it all when they put it in the computer. And if SEF doesn't see it translated, then you have to get it translated here, and that can be costly.
So if you start with a 90-day visa, you can't just come over on that and then apply for residency. Presumably, you have to return to the US. You can apply for residency while you're here, but you have to return to the US and then wait. No. Because if you cannot get an appointment within the 90 days that you have, you can always be a walk-in at SEF. And there are a lot of SEF, what do I want to say? Offices. Yeah. Yes.
So if you're like here in the Algarve, we have a SEF office in Portimao, and that is where we went. And you can be a walk-in and be seen that day. You will have to wait longer than people who have an appointment. So take a book. And in the summer like this, go early, because the Portuguese people do not have air conditioning. And so it can be done if you don't get an appointment. Also on the SEF site, when you're making your appointment, you can send a message, and possibly they'll get back to you and make you an appointment earlier, and possibly not. But you can always walk in and make and get your papers and your.
But you cannot process that application in the USA. You have to be in Portugal to do that.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But you need to start the process in the USA with the embassy and get your resident visa. I mean your 90-day visa, so that they'll have all the paperwork in the computer and have it translated to Portuguese.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for seeking that clarification, Jerry, because of course that can be a costly and difficult situation to find yourself in if you don't do that the right way. What comes to mind there, Peggy, and I know there are difficulties at the moment, obviously, with getting appointments with SEF and how the offices are working at the moment. And I think they are understanding, that impacts everybody. So there is a little bit of leniency and openness. But the first thing that came to mind with that process is the culture difference, because the States obviously is very much, an intense service-based culture. And Portugal is very different to that, isn't it? Like you said, take a book, take it easy. Take a chill pill, even if you're going to be going in to do your bureaucracy. What's your experience of that?
Well, you have to take a chill pill dealing with anything in Portugal, because it's totally unlike America. In America, if you set up an appointment with a worker to come to your house, or a company to come to your house to do work, and you have an appointment for a certain day at 9 a.m., in America, if they're not there by 9:15, you're calling them. Hello, where are you? In Portugal, you might want to wait 3 days before you check with them, because mañana has many meanings in Portugal.
And how's that been for you, though? I mean, presumably that's, for me, the way I see that is like the reason we came to Portugal, excuse me, was to relax and take it easy. So it goes hand in hand with that, doesn't it? That you can't have it both ways in a way.
Yes, and we are in Portugal. You have. I remind people of that. We came here, and this is Portugal. It's not America.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to be in Portugal and you don't want to live with the Portuguese way of life, go back. Because if you don't adjust and take it easy, take a chill pill, have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
It's noon somewhere.
Yes.
And Prosecco is acceptable for breakfast. So,
really
have a glass or bottle of Prosecco and, do something else, because you are in Portugal. And if you didn't want to be in Portugal, you need to acclimate to the Portuguese way of doing things. That's all I have to say.
Absolutely. What a great word as well. So acclimate is the thing to do. And I'm looking forward to your breakfast recipe book that I hope is coming out soon. It's quite simple, isn't it? Prosecco. Most days for breakfast in Peggy's house. Sounds fantastic. We'll check on other cultural differences. Just a couple of comments coming in. If any questions for Peggy, just put them in the comments and do ask them. Veronica has been sleeping with her head in the fridge. Good morning from her. And bon dia from Ana Lucia, who I believe is Portuguese, but in the UK at the moment. So good morning to you, Ana Lucia. Great to hear from you. The other cultural shift, the most obvious one, of course, is one you've written about, Peggy, which I'm going to put on the screen. Tell us about your experience of driving here.
Well, my experience with driving, my husband was in the Army and we were stationed in Europe, so we had much experience with driving in Europe. Plus, we have traveled extensively in Europe, including the UK and places where they drive on the wrong side of the road. And so we have enjoyed very, very much showing other people how easy it is to drive if you just remain calm and understand that you can do this. The roundabouts, we don't have roundabouts or circles very much in the United States. They're very, very, very unusual. And it's very intimidating for someone from America to do the roundabout. That is the biggest thing people are afraid of. Come from America is the roundabouts. And I just have to tell them, you don't just have, just have patience. And if you don't know where to get off or you miss your turn, just go around again. No, there's no law that says you have to get off just because you think that was your exit. Just go around again and make sure. And if they're honking and blowing their horn at you, then that's fine. They're likely to get off somewhere if you go around again. And if they're all kissing your butt, go around again. They'll get off. You can go around again and they will be getting off. So just remember, the people in the circle have the right of way and you have to merge into them. And you will get used to it if you practice it.
Yes. Really? Yeah. So don't be put off. Get out there, get some practice.
Right.
Kiss. The other word for kissing the butt is the tailgating, isn't it? Which is very popular, it has to be said. I think there is a sort of personality change for Portuguese people, and I've talked to Portuguese people about this. When they get behind the wheel, they are an altogether different state of mind. Let me put it that way.
They are.
And the thing about that is to not take it personally. No. It's not about you, is it? It's like, that's just the driving culture. There's hooting, there's kissing the butt, the tailgating, that there's fast driving, there can be quite aggressive driving. And I found Portuguese women to be the ones who've given me the most gestures, I'll say, on the road. But you don't take it personally. It's just part of the convention and the game, the rules of the game.
True. That's true. Yeah. And motorcycles are the bane of my existence in Portugal. But,
say more.
They are always they're always behind you. They're swerving to get around you on the right or the left, or to that 1 minute they're nowhere and the next minute they're beside you in the driver's right beside you at the driver's seat, and oh my God, go ahead,
Fantastic.
It's just to get the heck out of the way of the fast cars and the motorcycles, and it'll be less stressful for you.
Indeed. And another reason to go home and have a Prosecco to calm down. FD Frank says, I'm having breakfast with Peggy. I think we have to do this breakfast recipe book, Peggy, with more of your pithy wisdom about Portugal as well. Rule number 1, driving in Portugal, anything's possible. That's a good way of looking at it, Gary.
Very true.
And FD, Portuguese are the politest folks until you get them behind the wheel. Says
Hi, FD from Canada. I want to know where he is.
Sorry, say that again, Peggy.
Where is FD located?
Oh, a Canadian, sometimes in Lisbon.
Ah,
okay. And I did ask you. It says there on the screen. This is the article we're sharing that you wrote for Expats Portugal, Americans Driving in Portugal, about the author. Peggy moved to Portugal permanently in 2019 from Kentucky, because I did ask you where you were from. Do you miss Kentucky, and what other aspects of American life or culture do you miss?
I don't miss Kentucky because the humidity is horrible in Kentucky in the summer. I do miss my friends because United States has done such a piss-up job of responding COVID-19 problem.
I just write that down, Carl.
Yes.
Piss up job. That none of my friends and family have been able to come over because the United States, for the first time in history, has been banned from coming to Europe.
Yeah. So this sort of difficulty with the relationships between the countries is not just UK, Portugal. I mean, just everything's pretty chaotic, isn't it? And people are falling the wrong side of this. And so you're feeling that you're missing friends and family. And even if they wanted to come see you, they can't at the moment very easily.
Well, we intended to have a full house this summer.
Yeah.
But everybody's had to cancel their plans. All the flights have been canceled. And I miss my children because our flights back to the US have been canceled. So all I have to say to the American people is, I know you have no leadership, okay? I understand that. But put the mask on, distance, and do the things that work in other countries, and possibly you'll be able to come next year.
Yeah. Yeah. What else can you say, Peggy, at the moment? Great, crazy times. And where do you get a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich here in Portugal?
In my kitchen.
Of course, that's in the recipe book too. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a glass of prosecco. Boom, done. That's Monday.
Yes.
What else? What other parts?
The breakfast based on American breakfast. You know, you can get a British breakfast anywhere in the Algarve.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah.
You should. We need to redress that balance, absolutely. But yeah. What else is? I mean, you know, it's a balancing act, isn't it? I think we all have our own little version of saudade and what we miss, and what, you know, if we're feeling a little bit homesick or whatever, we know what to make. Often it's food, isn't it, or TV shows or whatever. What other things are you missing from the homeland, and how are you integrating those into your new Portuguese life, Peggy?
Well, there's very few things we actually miss, but we purchased a home here in 2017, and we've been coming back and forth. And I have been here a lot because of my arthritis. My husband has not been with me because, well, he has been coming as a tourist, but I started my residency earlier than he did. And so as he or I went back and forth, we would bring the things that we knew we couldn't get here. And some of those things are the red cocktail sauce for the seafood that has horseradish in it. And you cannot get grated horseradish in Portugal. You can only get horseradish mixed with mayonnaise, which doesn't work for cocktail sauce. But we'll deal. It's all about accommodating yourself to what is here, and making and toilet paper.
Toilet paper. What was that, Peggy? You're among friends. You can say that.
Paper. I have a sensitive
situation.
So having been here since 2017, we had a small townhouse. In 2019, we moved to a bigger house. But when we packed our household goods to come over here, instead of using bubble wrap and all those things, I used Charmin toilet paper.
Instead of using bubble wrap. That's a good move in anyone's book.
It worked perfectly to pad around things in the boxes.
Oh, I see, for the packing. Right, okay, yeah, go on. Yeah.
Packing, to pack around boxes. You know, it was it was wonderful. And it solved two problems at the same time. I have no shortage of my favorite toilet paper, and You're laughing, Jerry.
Oh, brilliant. That's amazing.
Peggy, I'm thinking it's so good nobody made a mistake and took that off and put the bubble wrap on. Imagine the problems you'd have with the bubble wrap now.
Well,
yes, that's an image we probably don't want to conjure up too strongly at this time of the day.
Yeah.
But that's incredible, Peggy, your sort of solution there. You know, necessity is the mother of invention. But I'm thinking, okay, those two things, if they're the worst, you know, like the horseradish, the specialty horseradish sauce, and the toilet paper is not as soft as you'd like, that's not so bad, is it?
Oh, I am not complaining. You asked.
No. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we conclude, let's do a couple more comments, but I would like to hear more of your advice for Americans coming over. Going back to the driving thing, I don't mind driving left or right drive cars. I can swap easily either way. I have over 30 years driving experience, and last year did a Class C, an HGV license in the UK. What drives me bananas in Portugal is when you use a GPS and the woman over GPS has English accents and pronounce, oh yeah, that's really, I mean, even that makes me wince when I hear that English woman pronouncing things that I know should be pronounced much better on the GPS. That just kills me. She says it in laughter as a Portuguese person. Yeah, it must be horrendous for you and comical. It takes me a while to understand what my poor GPS is telling me. And then at the last minute, oh, she says something else, but it's been cut off there. That's a wincing experience, isn't it? Especially when it's a really long thing and you're trying to get somewhere and this English sat-nav is trying to pronounce Portuguese places. Gary says, looks like a cure for your James Cagney impersonation, Cole. That's quite rude, Gary. That is my Donald Trump impersonation. But I won't inflict that on you, Peggy, right now, because that could be upsetting. Esther says, yes, Peggy, you tell them. Put the mask on. I'm not happy about being banned from Europe, especially Portugal. We feel your pain, Esther. Wayne, regarding the Treaty of Windsor, we're coming over, regardless. We, the community, have to hold up the principles if the government won't. Quite right, Wayne. We will interpret and uphold the Treaty of Windsor ourselves. And here you go. Here's a tip for you. Pingados, 4-ply, TP, very politely put there. The Pingados 4-ply, Peggy, it's the bomb. So there you go. Incoming as well as outgoing lifestyle tips. What would you conclude with, Peggy? Who we're really speaking to this morning, right? Americans who are thinking, life's a bit bonkers here at the moment. We're thinking of coming to Portugal. What would you say to them? How should they prepare for that, Peggy?
I think, first of all, visiting the expat site and reading some of my information that is particular to Americans, because there are several expat sites here. One that's particularly for Americans here in the Algarve, that's for Americans, and we meet every week, and it's just for Americans. So there are a lot of things, but I'd say search out these expat sites and read what is posted by the Americans, because there's so much out there for the Brits, but the Americans are starting to come over in droves, and we need to address that we have different needs and different we have different experiences that we need to help them get here as easily as possible. So that they're comfortable here, they need to be able to speak to someone in English to say, where do I go for this, or where do I go for that? And they need that your English neighbor can tell you that, but for information for getting over here, try to touch base with an American, and they can always touch base with me. I'm happy to share all my experiences.
Oh, that's really kind of you, Peggy. Fantastic. And the best way to do that, obviously, expatsportugal.com, the thriving forum that is there. You can connect with Peggy. I've done that over there on the Expats Portugal forum, expatsportugal.com. And I believe, Jerry, that can be done free of charge. You can become a premium member and get extra benefits, but the first level is free, right?
The first level is free, and it's very easy to contact Peggy. Her username is Peggy L. And so if you go on our site, if you go on our site as a community member, which is free of charge, you can communicate with Peggy. And I'd like to thank Peggy for her very valuable input this morning. We are seeing a surge of interest on our site from Americans looking to relocate here. And so we're very keen to build up more information. And we'll even possibly talk later, Carl, about maybe doing a webinar purely for the Americans who are looking to move to Portugal.
Superb, and I hope, Peggy, you'll be available for that, because that will be another great fun evening, as it's been great fun this morning. Hi, Peggy, from Esther, who says, thanks, Peggy. I'll be looking for your article specifically for Americans. I'm in California at the moment, and here's a bumper sticker idea. We could do this, couldn't we? Go, Peggy. We could have that as a bumper sticker along as part of all of our merchandise range that revolves around Peggy in Portugal. Hashtag Peggy in Portugal. We've got a business franchise there as well, I think. Peggy, let me and Jerry manage you on that one.
We'll register the domain name shortly.
PeggyinPortugal.com. Nice one, Peggy. Says FD there as well. So thanks so much.
I will be doing more articles on the expat site for some hints for moving and some other things that I have in mind that if Jerry will tolerate, I try to clean it up.
As long as you curb your language, Peggy, that'll be
fine. But so I will be doing more articles, so go to the site and keep watching for those, and specifically for Americans. So I hope it helps anyone who's looking to come.
Absolutely, it does.
Wonderful. Thanks again, Peggy. Thanks, Jerry. We have Julie Dawn Fox with us tomorrow, a prolific blogger. So talking more about life in Portugal. I think what does she say? Like your inside information from an outsider, something like that is her strap line, which is rather good. And we'll be talking to her tomorrow again about driving, but I'm sure we will deviate from that, to use a driving analogy, and take a few what do you call it? The turnpike. Take the turnpike into other areas of information about being an expat in Portugal with Julie Dawn Fox tomorrow. On Wednesday, we are talking to Michael Brodie again, CEO and founder of OurNet. We're going to be visioning Portugal 50 years from now, 2070, what Portugal might look like in 2070.
I'm not getting on camera in 20 years from now.
Yeah, it might be a legacy thing for some of us, but I still think it's an amazing thing to envision 50 years from now, particularly with how volatile things are in the world. What sort of world can we imagine for those to come here in Portugal? So we'll be talking about that on Wednesday. Thursday, I'm hoping to talk to a policing expert about how safe Portugal is, crime in Portugal, because there were some new figures released that seemed quite shocking, but actually weren't so bad in the realm of statistics when you drilled down. Not confirmed yet, but that'll be an interesting conversation on Thursday. And on Friday, the first one, the Friday phone-in, where I'm inviting, I don't know if this is a good idea, but I'm inviting people to phone in to talk about anything to do with living in Portugal. They can say anything they like as long as it's relevant, respectful, and legal. So that could be interesting. We'll see what happens. Maybe you could join us again, Peggy, for that. I hope you will drop in from time to time. This is at your place now. Come anytime you like.
Thank you.
And thanks again,
everybody, for your welcomes.
All right, we'll leave it there today. See you again tomorrow. So would you want to sign off in Portuguese, Peggy? What would you normally say?
Ciao.
Ciao. So a simple ciao from Peggy. Jerry, what would you?
Ciao, bom dia.
Ciao, bom dia. Até amanhã. De próxima from me. Take care. Yeah, ciao for now.
Bye. Bye.
Yes. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.